as he drove. She wanted to say more about whatever she'd seen on the top of Hangman's Ridge, but thought she'd better shut up. They pulled into the kennel just as a weary Doug Kinzer walked in, a gorgeous hound trailing behind him. "Archie!" Sister's voice carried reproach as she stepped out of the truck. "It's not like Arch." Shaker stared hard at Archie, who stared sweetly back. "Good work, Doug." Sister complimented the young man, a man so incredibly beautiful that Zeus would have made him a cupbearer on Mount Olympus. As Douglas led Archie, the hound, to the male side of the kennel, he said, sitting in front of a fox den, he wouldn't budge. He was pretty funny. He knows to come when he's called, but it's hard to fault a hound who hunts and dens his fox. Sister walked over to Archie, one of her favorites. "Arch, did you try to dig that fox out?" "No, I was waiting him out," a determined Archie answered. "Soft-hearted women ruin good packs of hounds," Shaker said. "So do hard-hearted men, especially bull-headed ones. Good night." "Night, boss." Shaker tipped his hat to her as she set off on the half-mile walk to her house. He knew better than to offer her a ride. He walked into the central section of the foxhound kennel, the feeding room. The housing for the hounds was built around this square and neatly divided in half by a concrete wall. Males to the left, bitches to the right. Outbuildings off this core kennel housed sick hounds segregated for their own good. Another building was the nursery, a place for bitches or gyps, as they were known, to birth and raise their puppies. Where was he this time? Sitting down on the other side of Hangman's Ridge, just sitting there looking up at the hanging tree. On the ridge or at the bottom? At the bottom. See any tracks? No. See anything on the ridge? Doug lowered his eyes, a brief flash of embarrassment. Yeah. Someone up there with an old scythe over their shoulder. Couldn't see their face. Had a cloak, kind of, with a hood. Like death. Well, like the drawings, I guess. I called Archie to me and bent down to check him over, and when I stood up, whoever it was gone. Shaker opened the heavy metal gate, turning Archie into the sleeping area where the other dog hounds burrowed in straw, raised their heads, then lowered them. They'd hunted hard that day and were curled up for the night. Sister said she saw him too. An audible sigh of relief escaped Doug's lips. "Thought you were hallucinating?" Shaker laughed. "Was pretty weird. Certainly sounds like it. I didn't see a thing. Now I wished I'd seen him, or whoever. Gave me the creeps." Shaker glanced around the kennel. Everything was in order. "Let's clean the tack. I hate getting up in the morning to dirty tack." About a quarter of a mile on the north side of Hangman's Ridge, running parallel to it, was Soldier Road, so named because during the Revolutionary War, the recruits hurried down the road to gather at the town square. Along that road at sunset, Fontaine Buruss was driving his sleek Jaguar back into town. He'd conveniently forgotten that he'd promised to repair the coupe he'd banged up during the morning's hunt. His mind was focused on meeting a lady for mutual pleasure. If he timed it exactly right, he'd be home in time for dinner. A cloaked figure, scythe on his shoulder, beckoned to him as he drove along the ridge. With his right hand, he waved Fontaine toward him. Fontaine slowed, then sped up. When he reached his affairette of the month, the beautiful and much younger Cody Jean Franklin, the first thing he said to her was, "That goddamn Crawford Howard tried to scare me today. First he ran me into a coop on Sister's land." He paused, remembering he'd not fixed it. "And then the silly ass, dressed as the angel of death, waved me to him from Hangman's Ridge." "How do you know it was Crawford Howard?" "Who else would do that? He hates me." "What did he think he'd do, scare me to death?" "Did you see his face?" Cody sensibly asked. "No. The hood was over the face, but it was Crawford all right. I'd bet my life on it." He started to fume and was ready to say he'd get even with that Yankee son of a bitch, but then he noticed the time, considered his purpose in being there. "I brought you a present." He reached into his tweed coat pocket, retrieving 2 small packages.